turn to the right, turn to the left. I'm sorry, every time Holly Hunter is on my TV screen, I think to myself, leave saving the world to the men. I don't think so. I don't think so.
I love that she has a southern accent now that you...
Yeah, well, I mean, no, not quite. What even is her accent? It's like...
I have no idea.
It's like some sort of, like, back of the throat, like it's not... You know, with people who don't have a lisp, but they have something sort of akin to a lisp?
Sure.
Like, you know, people have different sort of vocal...
Yeah.
Iterations. I don't know. Holly Hunter's got something great going on.
Love it.
In the vocal range.
Yeah. If I saw Holly Hunter as she is in this film, I would also drop to my knees and propose.
I also would steal a baby for her.
Obsessed. Oh my god.
Honestly, I don't think she did anything wrong. Hey everyone, hi, welcome to The Swamp. It's our podcast. It's an acronym.
Stands for some whack-ass movie podcasting.
And by God, I'm just doing a southern accent. They had accents, but they weren't like southern. They were like something else. I don't know.
Well, I mean,
Arizona
doesn't feel southern, you know what I mean?
Like, the same way that Florida doesn't feel southern.
Yeah.
It's its own separate thing.
Like Texas, yes, and everything in between Texas and, like...
Yeah.
What's next to Georgia?
Kentucky, maybe?
Yeah, like, Georgia, it doesn't feel southern, but everything in between those, I'm like, that's southern. Arizona, New Mexico, no, that's not south.
As a 25-year-old, sometimes I do realize that there are things from, like, the fundamental stages of my education that I just, like, really haven't grasped onto as well as you think one might have. Like,
sure.
I love to get a little too drunk and print out maps of the United States and have everyone try to fill it out. Because you'd be surprised.
I love that.
I actually really don't know the difference between Minnesota and Michigan. Like...
Is Michigan the one that looks like the glove? I think so, right?
Maybe. I don't know. Who's to say? But then I'm like, damn, that's the United States. Back in, like, 7th and 8th grade, I remember getting quizzed on, like, the whole world. Yeah. Like, you had to do, the world. Every country in the world we had to learn, I remember. Like,
what fucking classes were you in? And you knew where Kazakhstan was? Names
of rivers and shit.
Sure.
Now that I'm just like, you told me to name one river in any continent. I could not do it.
Obviously, I know you and I are big fans of, like, the New York Times, like, games in the mornings, and we do the movie grid and stuff like that.
Yep.
You should add a new one to your list. It's called the Worldle.
Worldle?
Yeah, so they go, and it's they show you a photo of a country and you get, like, 6 guesses to figure out where it is, and it'll, like, tell you which direction you should go from there based on, like, what country you guessed. Like, if you guessed, like, Mexico.
It'll say, like, north, south, east, west.
It'll literally give you, like, a little arrow, basically.
Oh, okay.
And be like, oh, you're, like, 70% right. Like,
gotcha.
If you, like, had, like, Panama to guess.
I'm sorry we're going to get 10 minutes into this podcast without ever having talked about the movie, but that reminds me of, do you see that guy on TikTok who gets a randomized Google Earth, clip it, and he can tell where it's from by, like, looking at the dirt?
Yep.
He's like, yeah, that dirt
it's
is
impressive.
really screaming Germany to me, and he's always right. And I'm like, what the fuck?
I love it.
People who just, like, have skills like that, that's wild. I have no skills. That's why I have a podcast.
Yeah, we can't even, and we can't even do that right sometimes.
I know, right? As in right now. So, hi, we're going to do all movies from the 80s this month. It's 80s month. And my mom...
80s August?
My mom was so pissed. Jen, as a tried and true 80s girly...
Very 80s girl.
...was really upset. Well, she's like, so what are you going to do first? And I was like, Raising Arizona. And she's like...
What the fuck?
She's like, Dara, nothing about that is quintessentially 80s. Like,
Doesn't
and I was like,
be.
She's like, The Goonies, Back to the Future, none of that. No. And
I've never seen Back to the Future, and I honestly kind of want to keep it that way.
You probably could. It's, like, fine.
I just don't care.
Well, so my relationship, if we want to sort of talk on a broader scale about the 80s, my relationship with 80s movies generally is that my parents told me that it was a staple, a classic, the greatest piece of whatever ever made, and then I watch it, and I don't like it because I'm like, well, you hyped it up too much.
Well, it's John Hughes probably too.
It was all John Hughes. I do not like John Hughes movies. I'm sorry. The Breakfast Club, I just don't like it. I was told this is monumental. Watch it, and I was like, I just don't feel moved.
No.
Too much hype. I think because my parents, I think your parents as well, were in the age during the 80s where that's like the culture they absorbed the most.
My mom plays me Def Leppard, and I'm like, what the fuck?
you're like, okay.
Get this shit out of my face.
Okay, girl.
But yeah, like, I grew up watching, like, the John Hughes movies, and, like, every time The Breakfast Club's on, my mom keeps it on, you know?
Of course, yeah.
Yeah.
Very that.
But I had never seen this movie.
I had never seen this either. I just knew it as that one early Coen Brothers film that I had not seen. I knew Nick Cage was in it, and I knew it was a comedy, which I usually don't expect, like, you know, I think I expect a certain level of humor and irreverence from a Coen Brothers movie, but I don't ever think of them as being, like, actually categorized as comedic.
Really?
They're usually more, I mean, I think like Fargo, right? Or like No Country for Old Men, that it's got humor to it, but it's more of a drama. It's more of like a, I don't know.
Yeah, I guess. Well, I just think of like The Big Lebowski.
Sure, which is more comedic, I would say. But this, I, for some reason, thought that this was going to be about single dad ex-convict. I got that right. Ex-convict, single dad, Nicolas Cage, raising like a 7-year-old. I thought she was like, I was like, oh, he has a daughter named Arizona.
I thought it would be a daughter.
She's like a preteen, sort of like somewhere between the 7 to 12 range. It's about their like quirky dynamic. I've never seen that movie with Paul Mescal. What's that one called?
After Sun?
After Sun. I've never seen that, but I was thinking more of a Coen Brothers After Sun. This is
the farthest
which
thing
is
from that.
Not that.
I kind of knew it was going to be quirked up, and I figured it wasn't like, After Sun.
I thought it was going to be quirked up Coen Brothers After Sun. I knew
there was a baby involved. I knew it wasn't a preteen, but other than that, like, I didn't have a lot to go off of. Besides, I love early Nick Cage. I like older Nick Cage too, but I mean, early Nick Cage really does something for me.
Nick Cage in Long Legs.
Don't get me started.
Yeah, you ranted about that movie a couple weeks ago. You were not a fan.
No, did not impress me.
I think old Nick Cage has been doing a little too much, in my opinion. As an aging actor, I feel like it's almost like self-referentially absurd to the point where I'm like, now you're just being cast as things because you're this like quirky guy, not because you're like actually playing characters that are like impressive or like different, or you know what I mean. Nick Cage is like fine now, but I think like living in a post National Treasure world, he just doesn't really do it for me as much.
Besides Pig.
I loved Pig. That's true.
Yeah.
Which, Nick Cage is fine. I don't have any qualms against him per se. I just think sometimes he's hyped up to the point I'm like, you just think he's kind of silly, and that's okay. Yeah. But we can just say that. He's not one of the greatest living actors. Like, he's fine.
Yeah, he's fine.
But I do love an early Nick Cage. Love a pre-veneers Nick Cage.
Give me those fucked up little chiclets.
Oh, and
they're not even chiclets.
Not even fucked up. Like normal
just
human
normal teeth.
I love when people have normal ass teeth.
Yeah.
Love to see it.
He was a real early case of veneers too.
Yes, yeah, right? Because there are not many movies. It's like this and Moonstruck, and like not a lot else has. Him and Ben Affleck locked in early with the veneers.
Which Ben Affleck, I will say, I'm like, that's valid.
Yeah.
You're allowed to do that, sir.
It was actually Michael Bay, I believe.
Said, please fix your shit.
In Armageddon, they were doing the movie Armageddon. They said, we'll cast you, but we are fixing that busted bro.
Isn't it Tom Cruise that has real fucked up teeth too?
Maybe.
He's got like a middle tooth.
Oh, maybe.
Nah.
I don't think I look at him ever long enough, because it's like terrifying. It's like staring at the sun. Like, exactly. I don't want that.
Exactly.
But yeah, I'd never seen this movie either, and I was excited to get into it, and it was not like After Sun, as I had thought it would maybe be a little bit, but it was a lot more funny. I loved that it was just basically a shot-for-shot blocked recreation of a Roadrunner Looney Tunes like comic. We just came off of watching Thelma and Louise, which I felt was very like Looney Tunes-esque, but then this just was like to the nth degree of like literal mushroom cloud explosions and things like that, which I had a lot of fun with. I think the Coen brothers,
evil biker,
right,
John Goodman screaming coming for 5 minutes, birthing himself out of the mud.
Wait, we'll get back to the mud, because I'm going to talk about that mud. But I think with a Coen Brothers movie, I always can expect a certain level of, like...
absurdity?
Well, yes, but I was going to say, like, technical precision.
I did love this cinematography.
The technical execution of, like, the way that these motherfuckers know how to block a shot, right? Just, it's... the comedy itself wasn't making me belly laugh out loud.
No, and it never does for me these days.
But the fact that the movie looks so technically perfect, it was like almost, there were certain moments that did remind me of like old cartoons or like Malcolm in the Middle episodes.
Yeah,
of, like,
that's a great way to put it.
That certain like tonal comedic, like a fast manual zoom in or like quick panning back and forth between two characters that are talking, like something that feels almost absurd and silly, but like on paper it just makes sense, and I think that's what I enjoy a lot about it. I was hoping to laugh a little more than I did. I did find some of the comedic moments to be good enough to kind of make up for the fact.
And it was a bit heartwarming, this one, you know.
Yeah, more wholesome than I was expecting it to be, for sure. Because there is a usual level of, like, sinister violence, sort of, whereas this was more, like, kooky.
Yeah, well, I just love a plot where a man so deeply loves his wife.
Right, yeah.
I'm like, oh, that's all I could ask for.
So for recap, I always start these by being like, a quick little recap, and then I don't ever talk about the plot from now until the end of the actual episode. So I'm sorry, but Raising Arizona is about H.I. McDonough. They call him Hi, but his name is Herbert, and that is Nick Cage, and he is in and out of the county jail where Edwina, Miss Holly Hunter, calls her Ed. She works there as like a prison guard, police officer person, and they sort of have this like montage of every time he gets, you know, booked to prison, she takes his photo.
And he flirts with her.
In his corked up little fucking Hawaiian shirt.
Every time.
Oh my god, the way that a printed out photo of Nick Cage with his tousled hair, little scrawny mustache, and
Hawaiian.
That's like my gender envy. Like I have that above my mirror of like fit inspo, right? Like the fit inspo of the tropical shirt, the oversized tropical shirt, and the little scrawny rat mustache.
If I could grow a rat mustache,
that's all I want.
My god.
That's all I want. But they fall in love, and immediately as he gets out of jail for, like, what, the third time or whatever,
something like that.
He proposes to her, and they immediately are thrown right into domestic life where they're like, we need a kid, we want to be a family, but she can't get pregnant, or, you know, they're trying, and it's not really working out.
They had her crying in this movie.
And,
pulled at my heartstrings.
Then they realized that local furniture magnate... what's his first name? Nathan Arizona.
Yeah, Nathan Arizona.
Unpainted Arizona is the name of his furniture store that sells all unpainted furniture.
Guess so.
So absurd. But him and his wife, they're like a little bit older. They seem to be like 50, but they, because of
some fertility drug.
She has quadruplets, which is always like
quintuplets.
Five.
Yes.
5 is
quints.
Quints? With a C or a T?
T. Quints. Quintuplets. So.
Quints?
Yeah, basically.
Quintuplets? I don't like that.
No, it's quintuplets, but people like shorten it and say quints.
Quints.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah, because quad is 4.
Right. Right. Another thing from my early education that did not latch on is like prefixes.
And then sextuplets, and then what's...
Septuplets is maybe 7? I only know that because septa, like the sept, the 7 stars, the 7 gods of...
the Sept of Baelor or some shit.
Yup.
We literally can't get away from Game of Thrones right now.
I cannot stop thinking about Hot D. Like, it's really... It's the only thing on my mind. Emily and I will be talking about the season 2 finale over on the Patreon.
Shortly.
I think in real time, the episode will have been out, but we will not have talked about it yet. I think we're going to give it, like, a little bit of time. Like, we're not going to be hot off the finale. But...
I'm already, like, rewatching the second season because I can't get enough. So.
Obsessed. We'll save that. Saving it for the Patreon, but we have a lot to say. I have a feeling our Hot D episode might be pushing, like, several hours of me just...
At least 2 hours long.
Yeah, for real. But they steal a baby because they're like, this couple has 5 babies.
They've got plenty.
So we can just go snatch one. And honestly, I think that's pretty valid. Honestly, sound reasoning.
Not a bad idea.
They go and Nick Cage snatches up a baby in one of the most absurd sequences ever put to film.
Why is he taking them all out?
Why was he moving them around? He was putting one on a chair.
I'm like, well, I didn't understand what he was trying to do.
I also did not understand. I'm like, maybe that's like a reference to something that I'm not getting, like emulating something in like a lot of early cartoons of something like the baby's crawling away and him not being able to find them. I found that to be incredibly confusing. But
and it was like a 5-minute plus sequence. It was
so long. Yeah. It just kept going on, and I was like, what am I missing?
Yeah, right. I think they just needed to get the most out of all these baby actors.
Right. Yeah. But he eventually decides to snatch up Nathan Jr. The other babies are named like they all rhyme, right? It's like Teddy, Freddie, Eddie, whatever, and Nathan Jr.
Yeah, basically.
So he takes Nathan Jr. and Holly Hunter says,
this is the most beautiful baby I've ever seen. I love him so much.
And so they take it home, but then they're sort of thrown into like, well,
parenthood.
They're like, we haven't really planned for this. Like, they didn't really gear up in the way that, like, I never really thought too hard about, like, the logistics of having a baby until one of my very close friends had a baby. And you're like, oh my God, like, yeah, you gotta be setting up their doctor's appointments for the next year of your life before they're even born. Like,
like a once a week doctor's appointment too. It's
right after they're born. Yeah, they be going to the doctors on a daily basis. It's wild.
Yeah,
just
they are
things you don't think about.
Bumping up your gas bill.
Also, not to just like keep talking about how dumb I am, but I also didn't know that you can't give babies water.
Yep.
What? I didn't know that. Thank God.
I didn't know that until recently either.
God, no one left me
with a baby because
why wouldn't I give it water? If it
they get it's like it poisons them.
Well, they overhydrate. Like their body can't
they can't regulate anything. It's not
insane.
I am truly shocked that human beings have made it this far.
Right?
Because of how much the human baby needs.
And even, like, we have access to so much information. Like, I could just Google how to take care of a baby and read enough to sort of have it not die, right?
Sure.
Imagine everyone before us who didn't have that.
Yeah.
You just had to rely
That's
on,
why the mortality rate.
Yeah, that's true. But just, like, you have to rely that the people around you are going to tell you, like, the stuff you actually need to know.
Right.
Where it's like, I wouldn't have thought to ask.
No.
But Nick Cage wouldn't have think to ask either, because he's, like, probably giving this baby a PBR. Like...
Exactly.
But they are, thrown into parenthood, and then in one of the greatest sequences ever put to film, Miss Frances McDormand shows up.
Of course.
And just knocks the fucking house down.
Yep.
Obsessed. Love her.
Always.
And they have a bunch of kids. It's her and her husband is
like
Nick
Dennis
Cage's, like, boss at work, basically. And they sort of provide this picture of, like, parenthood.
Yeah, nightmare of parenthood.
Right.
Which, like, it's like 5-6 kids all running around.
Misbehaved.
Yeah. Spraying water guns and breaking glass and writing
the word
on the
fart. Just write the word fart on the wall. Like, honestly, he was right for that.
Exactly.
That is hilarious. But the joke is that Frances McDormand wants a new baby because the ones she have are too big to cuddle with now. And so the husband sort of goes out on a nice walk through the desert with Nick Cage and is like, hey, we're swingers. Do you want to swing?
Nick Cage punches him in the face.
Decks him in the face and says, I love my goddamn wife.
Yeah. Which, this was hot.
And then he loses his job, though, because that's his boss, right?
Of course.
So now he's out of a job, they have this baby, they're feeling very overwhelmed, and so Nick Cage does what he knows best, which is to rob a convenience store. Mm-hmm. A lot of parallels with Thelma and Louise, gotta say.
Again, this is one of the best sequences in... this film is the chase scene that ensues after he decides to rob a convenience store.
The cops are just firing guns into the air for no reason. Mm-hmm. It is, just the most Looney Tunes ass shit of them running up and down the street. The cops, he's got the Huggies, he throws the Huggies at one point.
There's a pack of dogs that end up chasing him.
Oh, so
He's in the grocery store and the cop is shooting at him and the aisles are exploding, basically.
Oh my God, that's how I feel every time I'm in a grocery store. It's like I'm being chased by dogs and a man with a gun.
Yeah.
Like, for real. It's like every time.
Really, I love being in the grocery store.
I kind of do too. I like the stress of it almost a little bit. Like, I like to, I'm like, I have to leave my house and feel a little overwhelmed.
Sure.
I know that's, like, awful to say. But I don't understand, like, people our age who want to do all their grocery shopping, like, on their phone. Like, I don't want to order all my groceries through, like, Instacart. And
I'd like to be able to pick out the orange I get.
I want to touch it. I want to see it. I want to touch it. I want to leave my house for an hour.
Do you know how much rotted produce sits on a shelf? Plenty. Mm-hmm. Having worked at a grocery store.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, nasty.
And also I don't trust somebody else to, like, pick my shit up for me.
I worked in the produce section, and so And, I mean, it's a whole thing of, like, rotating the produce or whatever, getting new produce. I remember just walking in and being able to smell rotted citrus. Oh. Because it's, I mean, you know what it smells like. Yeah. And I have to go through, like, 6 different boxes to find the one moldy orange that's sitting in there.
Absolutely.
I'm not going to have someone else pick it out for me. They don't care.
Disgusting.
Yeah, no.
Those memes that are like when a man is your Instacart shopper and it's like suggested like alternate and it's like an orange and he thinks you should get like Doritos. Like, I couldn't find an orange, so I just got you this bottle of shampoo instead.
Yeah,
like,
of course.
I don't know the differences between the different kinds of tomatoes, so I just like got you a steak.
Yeah.
Just figured it would be the same. Very that. But yeah, the chase sequence, so funny. That's when this movie really starts to like Looney Tunes it up, because they also introduce the Leonard Smalls character, who's this biker who sort of gets hired by Nathan Arizona to like bounty hunt his baby back to him. And this whole conversation of like, you know, well, why should I trust you if I already have the cops on it? Well, the cops are never going to find your baby. You need a criminal to find your baby. I like that whole sequence, and I was looking into it a little bit, and I guess that actor that they got to play the biker guy, his agent was like a guy who represented mostly like fighters, not actors.
Oh, I love it.
So his agent like didn't give a fuck if everyone in Hollywood hated him. So when the Cohen brothers were like, hey, we have to do some reshoots. You know, we filmed this movie however long ago, but we need to do some reshoots. He's like, oh, well, you're going to pay my guy twice as much, because who else are you going to get? They're like, you can't reshoot his scenes with someone else. Yeah. So you're going to pay us twice as much. And the Coen brothers were like, no, that's like not really how this works. And he's like, I don't care if you say I'll never work in this town again. I represent a bunch of WWE guys. Like, I don't give a fuck. So I guess the guy who plays the motorcycle guy really got off with a huge fucking paycheck because his manager was like, reshoots.
Get fucked,
What the hell? And like, I guess was notoriously like very difficult on set and stuff like that, which I think is very funny. But yeah, this like larger than life biker character who's also now like trying to kidnap this baby when he like almost like in a Western, right? He like pulls up on his bike and he like scoops the baby up. So good.
Yeah, which mind you, at this time, like John Goodman and his brother get introduced via mud birth.
I'm sorry, can I say something controversial yet brave? I think John Goodman is so hot in this movie. Young John Goodman is hot.
I think it's brave. I think what you've just said is brave.
And this Fred Flintstone kind of does it for me. I'm not gonna lie.
Whatever. Hey, I am not gonna yuck your yum.
You know what it is? I think that he looks good with sideburns. That's
not a lot of people can do that.
That's so untrue. Of like the no other facial hair and you just have huge mutton chops. That looks awful on most people. And he's pulling it off so hard. I would say he is the exemplary person.
I think you do have to kind of be John Goodman to do that. So
even old John Goodman, I still think is hot. Him in The Righteous Gemstones.
You've got a whole thing.
But yeah, they're also going for the baby, so it's like all of these different parties are all trying to snatch this baby.
Meanwhile, Holly Hunter just wants to have a loving family.
Right, and it sort of resolves itself by them getting it and deciding that the right thing to do is return the baby.
Sure.
In a moment that I thought the dad was going to be like, nah, y'all can keep it. Like,
yeah, for real.
For a hot second, I was
like, we actually were totally overwhelmed.
Yeah,
keep him.
Having 5 is a lot. If he swapped out, he's like, you can't have Nathan Jr., but you can have like Edward.
Yeah.
Or Teddy or one of the other ones, right?
Larry.
Yeah, you can have Larry.
Or Gary. You want both?
Oh, was it Larry, Gary, Terry, and Nathan Jr.?
Yeah, something like that.
Right. Yeah, they returned the baby. I for real did think he was going to give them one. I think that would have been my preferred ending. But then they just sort of realized what they did was wrong. They're not going to have any charges pressed on them or anything, and they part their ways. And
and
he says, hey, you never know, maybe science will catch up to you and you will be able to have one of your own. From raising Arizona to the woman who raised me, Jen is here to do her interim podcast segment, Chocolate or Vanilla. She's going to say 2 things. We're all going to say which one we like better. Jen, you love the 80s. Correct?
I do love the 80s. I graduated high school in the 80s.
The 80s are our theme for this month, and I believe that you have spoiled for me that you were going to integrate the 80s into all chocolate or vanillas for this month. Is that correct?
Yes, this will be a heavy 80s month for me.
Fabulous.
Love it. And so what specifically is the theme this week?
It's so specific. These are all songs from 1987, the year that this movie came out.
Love, I said at the beginning of the episode that you were like, Dara, Raising Arizona, that's not iconic. That's not from the 80s.
I thought it was a little bit later, but it was 87.
Yeah, right? That's what I thought.
Yeah.
So I like that you're capitalizing off of this year by steering us to some more iconic things that happened this year, more 80s defining than the Cohen brothers.
This would be the year I started college.
Ooh, fun.
Chocolate or vanilla?
Chocolate.
Vanilla.
Chocolate. First one. With or Without You by U2, or I Think We're Alone Now by Tiffany.
I just will never forgive U2 for putting that album on my phone without asking me. I know that's like such a millennial thing to say, but that was just like not cool, and I think about it all the time. So I'll say Tiffany.
What was the Tiffany song?
I Think We're Alone Now.
Oh yeah, I'll go for that one. U2 doesn't do it for me very much.
Yeah, same. Gary loves U2, and
it's a dad band.
Yeah, I'm not gonna say I tolerate them. Like, I don't mind them, but I don't get too excited.
Yeah, fair enough.
I don't get too excited when they decide to download their 20-song album to my fucking iPod Touch.
Yeah, that was a lot.
Middle school.
Next, did they do that to everybody?
Every single person on the face of the planet.
Every person on the planet. They like did some weird backdoor deal with Apple where they're like, anyone who owns an Apple device now has this album on their phone, and everyone's like, what the fuck? I didn't ask for this. It wasn't good. Okay. It wasn't good.
No.
The next one is I Want to Dance with Somebody by Whitney, or I've Had the Time of My Life, Bill Medley and Jennifer Warnes.
That song is only iconic because of that movie, and I don't really fuck with that movie, and I fucking love Whitney, so...
Yeah, I Want to Dance with Somebody never fails to get me shaking my hips.
Yeah, I love that song. Although I thought I was going to have Emily with the Dirty Dancing song. But...
It's like my least favorite song on the soundtrack, honestly, and it's a great soundtrack.
Next one is Hip to Be Square, Huey Lewis, or Nothing's Gonna Stop Us Now by Jefferson Starship.
Huey Lewis and the motherfucking News up in this bitch. Kill me, Patrick Bateman, to Huey Lewis and the News. Formally requesting.
Yeah.
Love Hip to Be Square.
Yeah, Hip to Be Square is pretty good.
Yeah, same. Next one is La Bamba by Los Lobos, or Everybody Have Fun Tonight, Everybody Wang Chung Tonight.
Wow. What? I do not think I know this second song, but I love La
Everybody
Bamba.
have fun
You don't know.
tonight.
Everybody have fun tonight. Everybody Wang Chung tonight.
Yeah.
No, I don't
Really?
think so. I don't think so.
Oh, that made me smile when you put that in there, but I do think I have to say La Bamba as well.
Mm-hmm.
All right, I will go with Wang Chung. Next one, Moni Moni by Billy Idol, or Luca by Suzanne Vega.
I don't know if I know.
My name is
these.
Luca. I live on the second floor. No, that one I was like, oh, those guys aren't gonna know.
Only
it.
Suzanne Vega song I know is the
that is a good one.
But that's it. I don't know either of those. I guess I'll pick Suzanne. Sure.
I'll go Billy Idol on this one.
All right, I'll go with Luca too. Next one is Need You Tonight by INXS. That's one. Dun dun dun.
Oh yeah. Okay, good to know.
Yeah. Or Never Gonna Give You Up by Rick Astley.
Rickrolled. Jen just rickrolled us live on the pod. Gotta say, I'm turning your 80s references into like mid 2000s references, right? So I'm gonna pick Never Gonna Give You Up, Rick Astley for sure.
I'm gonna go INXS.
Yeah, I was a big INXS girl.
Yeah, they got some good ones.
Don't Get Me Wrong by the Pretenders, or I Just Died in Your Arms Tonight by the Cutting Crew.
Ooh, I Just Died in Your Arms Tonight.
Easily.
The drama. They just don't make songs that dramatic anymore.
I just want to like break out singing right now every time you mention one of these. Yeah, I Just Died in Your Arms Tonight.
Last one is Rhythm Is Gonna Get You, Gloria Estefan, or La Isla Bonita by Madonna.
I don't really think I know either of these, but I'll just pick the Madonna
You don't know
one.
Rhythm Is Gonna Get You?
I don't think so.
Wait, I'm gonna choose this one because this is more of a vibe.
And then, yeah, I'll go with that one too. Gloria Estefan and the Miami Sound Machine. That's it for 1987.
Fabulous.
I could do that for every year in the 80s.
I bet.
I do. My definite like something I stand by is that 1984 was the best music year in the history of music.
Wow.
84.
Love that for you, Jen.
Alright.
Jen is an absolute beast to have on your team for trivia.
I fucking bet.
Across the board 80s, but specifically 80s music is always a trivia category. They always want to do the deep cuts from the 80s because, right, trivia, pub trivia, that's the vibe. Jen fucking rocks it. Key player every time with the 80s music knowledge.
I do not doubt it for a second.
I think that the music that was popular when you're in junior high is the music that holds a place, like, deep in your brain.
That's correct. Because, I mean, the amount of people that I talk to our age that's like, Kesha is my girl.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's true.
Right.
Yeah, I don't want it to be true, unfortunately, but it is. That is
absolutely
just true. So
yeah, if I hear Iron and Wine, like,
oh my god, I'm gonna Thelma and Louise myself off a cliff.
With who's Iron and Wine?
They have this song from Twilight.
Bullshit.
Yeah.
You know the song from Twilight, whatever is it called?
Flightless Bird, American Mouth,
yeah. It's so sad. So good. Why was I listening to that? I was 12 years old. Why was I listening to such harrowing, sad music?
You were listening to Modest Mouse as well.
That's true.
You had a Modest Mouse t-shirt.
Yeah, love that for me. Really painting the picture of who we are this week. Thank you, Jen. As always, we love you, and we'll see you next week.
Okay, I love you guys. Have an awesome night.
Bye, Jen.
Bye. Bye.
Which, this movie did have a bit about adoption in it. They did say, like, that they had tried to adopt, but because of Nick Cage's
path.
Yeah, like, in and out of jail, that they couldn't adopt. So that was, like, sort of presented as an option. Because I do usually get annoyed when movies act like having a biological child is the only way you can do that. Like, oh my god, like, just fucking grow up. Like, I understand it's upsetting if you are unable to have a child, but there are just, like, so many kids who need homes. Yeah. Like,
you as a man do not need to spread your seed.
Right.
Like, disgusting. Keep that shit inside your body. Get your fucking, not tubes tied. Get the clip. Get clipped.
Clip. All men should start clipped and earn their way back to seed spreading. Like,
I was glad that they did present that as an option, though.
Right, or at least explained it. Explained that, like, they did try this thing, and then they decided, that they couldn't, and moving on, because just sometimes that is completely overlooked, and I'm just like, are you being for real right now?
Well, in movies and just real life.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah.
And they do
bitches would love to employ a surrogate before ever considering adopting a child.
Right, yeah, ugh. So gross.
Which is,
there's, like, a really dark, sinister side to, like, surrogatry that I don't really know a ton about, but every so often there's, like, this rumor. I don't know if this is true, allegedly, do not take this as fact, but that, like, Beyonce and Jay-Z have this, like, incredible underground surrogacy ring that they are, like, the head of.
Oh, God.
And it's, like, this incredible income source that they just, like...
Nothing would shock me these days.
Yeah, like, it's, like, fucked up, I guess.
But I mean, like, well, the whole thing of celebrities renting out wombs because they don't want to actually give birth, I think is pretty disgusting and pretty foul.
Gross. I mean, and in some cases it is because they can't for themselves, but in other cases it's so clearly like, oh, you just don't want to have a pregnancy body. Like, you don't want to deal with
Kim K, like, having 3 kids via surrogate.
I think she did have, like, an issue... But I don't know the whole
I think she
story
had an uncomfortable pregnancy and was throwing up a lot or some shit like that.
Oh, really? Like, that's the...
I don't know enough about it. I'm probably talking about
I mean, I love to hate a Kardashian. I'm not gonna stand up for the Kardashians.
Yeah.
So I would like to assume the worst about them.
Yeah, hard to say.
But I did think it was funny that they brought back up around again when Frances McDormand's husband is like, oh yeah, we thought about adopting, but you could only get not white babies. Like, oh, like, we are saying the quiet part out loud.
Oh yeah.
I do appreciate this movie's, like, honesty. And I don't think the Cohen brothers ever, like, hold any punches.
No.
Which is always refreshing, because I do think we sometimes get, like, very processed and saturated points of view nowadays because everything has to get approved by 900 people before, ever getting made. It's like you can't say anything that might be mildly taken the wrong way. Not to be like a political correctness, like, person. I do think that it's good that things get reviewed, but
sure,
I think sometimes that takes a little bit of honesty and rawness out of it.
Absolutely.
Which is a little refreshing to see in this movie. I also just think a lot of movies like aren't as silly. Like, aren't like so goofy like this anymore. Give me more like slapstick, goofy, John Goodman coming out of the mud. I want to see
that was really good. I mean, because I'm thinking the only thing that comes to mind is Drive Away Dolls, obviously, which is a Cohen Brothers' newest film.
I'll really have to watch that because
you haven't seen it yet?
Every time you bring it up, I'm like, I should watch that.
I'm going to spoil it already and say that that's the thing that I'm going to suggest you watch after this because it is still desert-based and,
So, huge desert guys.
Love.
Coen Brothers love the desert.
Oh, yeah, I love it.
They also
one of their earliest films, I remember having to watch this in, like, one of my film classes, Blood Simple. I would highly recommend. It's a, like, neo-noir film, Frances McDormand, desert.
Is that their first movie?
Yeah. Very good.
I know that I don't know too much about their like career and their trajectory, but I do know that this was like a huge difference from their first movie because this is the second movie they made. Yeah, and that it was so different from the first one that everyone is like, oh my god, like we did not know what to expect from these guys, but it was not this. And then obviously getting a little bit more into their style with later films. It's like they were more well-known.
I figured this was pretty early on in their careers, but I didn't know it was number 2. That is, like, which is how I feel they go about just about everything. I feel like they do one really serious sort of tight, like, honed-in film, and then one stupid-ass one.
Right.
To balance themselves out.
I wonder which Coen brother is like, I bet that they're like that, you know? Where one of them's like, we're doing one for me this time, you know?
No, it's my turn.
Wait, which one is married to Frances McDormand?
I don't know.
One of them is. Yeah. But she's a series regular. We love to see her.
Of course, yeah.
I loved her in this film. She was everything to me. Her hair, her accent, all of it. The tip-det, the hep what was it? The diphtheria and the dip-het?
Don't know.
The dip-tet shot.
Yeah.
So fucking funny. She was like the belly laugh out loud moments for me in this where I was like, okay, I get the sort of slapstick comedy, but I'm not doing anything other than like an exhale out of the nose. I was laughing at Frances McDormand.
I need her in another one of their movies. Right? Which, like, I get it. Like, you're married to her. You guys don't want to, like, work too... Maybe, I don't know. The boundaries of your marriage and all that. But... Right. Yeah. Stop putting her in Nomadland and 3 Billboards.
Let her be silly.
Come on, please.
Let her flex her comedic chops because Frances McDormand is so funny.
Hysterical.
She's an incredible comedic actress.
Yeah, but she's a series regular, so is, of course, John Goodman. And, I mean, they've got the rotating cast.
Yes.
Which you texted me.
Yeah, I wanted to know. I didn't really think about this too much myself. Like, I don't have an answer. But I was just thinking, like, I was watching this movie and I was like, oh, you have, this people you sort of expect to pop up.
Sure.
And sometimes with directors, I feel that can be, like, refreshing because they'll utilize actors in different roles to, like, show them off, right? Like, I don't know, Christopher Nolan and
Cillian Murphy.
Right, their relationship, I almost feel like Christopher Nolan is like, oh, like, I'm so excited to get him to push his boundaries and do something kind of different, right? Whereas I think sometimes it's like, let me utilize this person over and over again, and it's always the same, and it's boring. So there are some people, you love to see them pop up, because it's like, I'm not surprised, but I'm like, I'm still happy about it, right? Yeah. It's very like Wes Anderson, right? With his series regular. So I did text you and I wanted to know if you had like a director who you thought that their like close contact list, their inner circle, they're people who pop up in all of their movies, but you're still kind of like happy to see them.
It's Wes Anderson for me.
Yeah, he does have
his is just so deep, dude. His is so deep. And I personally I think my favorite person that he casts and put into different roles is Tilda Swinton. I think, and he doesn't always give her anything big. It's honestly usually like a pretty small role that she has, but I think it's always very memorable. Like her as the elderly woman in the Grand Budapest Hotel. Stupid, could hardly recognize her. I loved it. Or like even, I mean, there's this one line, Asteroid City was fine. Not nearly my favorite, but the thing that I always think about is like her lines when they're looking up at this like lunar spectacle that's happening or whatever, And she's like, yeah, don't look at it directly because it will burn into your retinas. And then it shows her retinas with 3 little dots across them. It's so funny. Yeah. I love it. And he has enough of a rotating cast that I think it's fine that he has his regulars. Mm-hmm. And I mean, it's like...
He almost makes me like people that I don't usually like.
Like Ed Norton?
Or like Bill Murray.
Yeah.
I'm like, I don't like Bill Murray, but then I see him in a Wes Anderson movie and I'm like, happy you're here, Bill.
Yeah.
Happy to see you.
Yeah. Hey.
As always.
Yeah, tipping my hat to him.
Like, God, Wes Anderson, you got me tipping my hat to Bill Murray. Yeah, Ed Norton as well. That's another good example. Uh-huh. Yeah, I think Wes Anderson is great about...
And he kind of rotates it every couple of years almost. Mm-hmm. Like, he had Saoirse in a couple of them. In, like, that 2010s and, like...
But his is, like, I'm like, you're underutilizing her. Her in The French Dispatch, I was like, why was she in it for a minute?
I know.
Make her a bigger character. God.
Yeah, genuinely upsetting.
God.
But, I mean, he's always got Jason, Schwartzman, love that. Yeah, I think he's got, like, a fine enough rotating cast that I really like. Mm-hmm. So, what about you? Would you agree that that's your favorite?
That's pretty good. I mean, obviously... Quentin Tarantino, very iconic. I think he classically will, like, make people kind of step outside. He's like, Uma Thurman is like a, muse, let her really show off her talents. Yeah. I like it when directors want to see their friends succeed and, like, you know, uplifting them and collaborating with them in a way that, like, makes them shine. Yeah. That is not necessarily Quentin Tarantino, as he is a not chill guy. Yeah. But, yeah, as far as, like, iconic close contacts lists, you love to see a Harvey Keitel pop up in a Quentin Tarantino movie.
Not gonna be mad about that.
I can see it coming from a mile away, and yet here he is, and here I am. And
Samuel L. Jackson stays employed.
It's kind of nice. Yeah. It's just kind of nice. But yeah, the Cohen brothers, I do love that they keep Frances McDormand
always
booked and busy. I didn't know they were married for a long time. I just thought that they were, like, tight.
Buds.
Yeah, they were just, like, tight, and I was like, oh, that does check out that she is married to one of them, yeah.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Yeah, I love whatever. I would love to see Nick Cage work with them again. Because I don't know that he's ever been in another one of their films. Or
not. I don't know.
I also don't keep very close tabs on the Coen brothers. Because, I mean, I wish I liked them more. Yeah. They're not my faves.
They're fine. I guess Nick Cage, this was a pretty early role from him. Like you had mentioned.
Which I feel like he was probably trying to, like... distinguish himself. I mean, he's a Coppola. He changed his last name. Mm-hmm. He really from what I know, he really wanted to build his career himself. Right. And I think this, working with these two early on was a very smart move. Yeah,
and I think the success of this movie certainly, like, put him on the pedestal because he is very good.
Was it very successful?
It was, I think, more successful than, I mean, I think it made money, considering it was their second film. I think, budget of $5, made 20, something like that would be my guess.
Sure.
Successful enough, and his performance was good enough that it would, like, put him on the map in some sense. Yeah. But in a video I watched about, like, the making of this, they talked about how he wanted to, like, improvise a lot and, like, do script changes, and the Coen brothers were like, no, like, this is meticulously blocked out. Like, you have to stay to the script. I think similar to Wes Anderson of... It's so technical and precise that
we can't change a thing.
There's no room for us to be, like, molding it as it's being created. Like, we fucking planned this shit out, and, like, you get to act, but you have to stay on the script. Like, do what you want with it, but do the script. Yeah. And I guess
there's a reason we wrote it like this.
I guess that was sort of an early lesson for Nick Cage of, like, you can't really be pushing back like that too much. Like, you can, find ways to put yourself into the character within the boundaries that the director sets, right? Sure. And, like, that sort of side of the relationship, rather being like, I'm a Coppola, I can show up and do my thespian little flair to it. Like, no, you can't yes and on the script, buddy.
You're still new here. That ain't how this works. But should we get
into our regularly scheduled programming? So I guess Fuck, Marry, Kill we want to do.
Well, let's put John Goodman in for you.
Thank you. Maybe John Goodman,
Holly Hunter, and Nick
Cage. And then do we want to add Frances McDormand and we can add Fight in there?
No, she wasn't enough for me.
Oh, really? I loved her. Dot.
Yeah.
I was so tickled by her. I guess I'm gonna I'll marry John Goodman.
Of course.
Rehabilitate him.
I'd expect nothing else. I love that they put themselves back in jail at the end.
So funny. They go back into the mud.
Yeah.
That whole part of the story is like they're like refugees or not refugees, like on the lam.
Yeah, they're on the lam,
if you will. But yeah, I'm gonna marry John Goodman. I guess I'll kill Nick Cage and I'll fuck Holly Hunter. I'll put a baby in her. I'll spread my seed. I'll spread my seed all over Holly Hunter. Yeah,
for Holly Hunter, I will evolve to be able to
uniform stays on though.
Yeah, I'm going to evolve enough to get her pregnant.
Yep.
So due to that, I'm gonna marry her.
Right.
I would love to be able to provide for her.
Mm-hmm.
And I think she's just the cutest thing in this movie.
Yeah, she's so charming.
She feels the way that Cameron Diaz felt to me when I watched Being John Malkovich.
Yeah, I'm endeared by her.
I just wanna hold her, holding our baby.
And protect her. And I'm almost like Nicolas Cage. I'm like, stay away from her. Get a job.
Yeah, right. But I will fuck High in this movie.
Sure,
I'll fuck Nick Cage. And then I'm killing John Goodman because he's just not for me.
Yeah, sure. That's fair.
I'm putting a baby in Holly Hunter. I can't simultaneously get dicked down by John Goodman.
And then what are you gonna eat and drink with this?
This one almost wrote itself for me. I just feel like, for some reason, jalapeno poppers felt so right.
Specifically
wrapped in bacon.
Ooh,
are they typically supposed? Are they like? They're not like typically wrapped in bacon, right? That's not like
I think that's excessive.
Excessive, yes. So I'm gonna wrap them in bacon though.
Love it.
Get them really nice and crispy.
I'm specifically thinking of like the TGI Fridays brand ones that you get from the freezer section at the grocery store that are like, they're never great.
No, but they get the job done.
They're so there for me when I meet them.
I'm partial to a TGI Fridays potato skin. God.
Love.
That's the only time I'll show up for a football game, is if someone tells me they're gonna have some potato skins, I'll be there.
With like the processed cheese. I'm like, I want it to be Velveeta.
It's so good.
I want it to be Cheese Whiz.
And
There's
then
a time and a place.
Yeah.
And it's on a TGI Fridays potato skin.
Exactly. So I'm gonna say jalapeno poppers, and I think you do you make your own poor man's shandy, and you pour out you take a couple big sips of PBR and put a little lemonade in it.
I also said PBR as my drink. It just makes sense. Yeah.
It's right there.
Of course.
And what are you eating?
Sand. Of course. There's this sequence when Nick Cage is in prison and the guy he like shares a room with or whatever
oh my god
is like talking about
so
like his past, and he's like, when there wasn't meat we ate poultry, when there wasn't poultry we ate crawfish, and when there weren't crawfish we ate sand. Just like, I thought that was so fucking funny. And then John Goodman comes up out of the bubbling sandy mud. And this movie is so desert-based.
Yeah.
We got a lot of dust kicking up that I just felt like this was a sandy film. So as I've said in the past about other sandy movies, I'm not going to say this is the first time I've ever recommended you eat sand, but I think you should make sand, which is when you crush up graham crackers and you mix it with like fucking butterscotch pudding or some shit.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's like a classic white people dessert to bring to the function, to bring to the potluck.
Yeah, it's not a dirt cup, it's a sand cup.
It's a sand cup. I remember when I was a kid, somebody would always bring it in a sand pail, like in a dollar store.
See, I've never encountered this actually.
In like a dollar store, like sand castle mold.
Yeah.
And they make the
just
sand,
go to town.
And they bring it in that to the function. Like,
so I mean, dirt cups have the fun little worms in them. Is there anything fun to put in sand?
I bet. Do you think they make like gummy crabs? I mean, fish doesn't really make sense. What animal, like lizards? Gummy lizards?
Gummy lizards would be good. Gummy snakes.
Gummy snakes.
Yeah.
Similar
you could just get worms and say they're snakes.
No, that doesn't feel right to me.
Fair enough.
There needs to be a better desert creature variety shaped snack food for me to place on top of my sand cup.
Fair enough.
But I think you should drink
scorpions.
Oh, yeah.
Gummy scorpions.
A scorpion made of, like, Nilla wafers.
Yeah.
It's incredibly complex. Do you ever watch those TikToks of, like, the chocolatiers?
Oh, love those.
Who, like,
love
make
those
the
guys.
insane sculptures. That, like,
and they're, like, 4 feet tall.
And they're always, like, really phallic for some reason at one stage of the development.
Yeah, he's, like, straddling it, too.
And he's, like, stroking it.
Yeah, exactly.
But, like, it turns into a tree frog at some point.
Sure.
Yeah, like, what? Yeah, I think you should eat some sand and drink a PBR.
Good call.
Feels
I like that.
And then to follow it up, I just think, what is the next logical step as far as movies that are Looney Tunesy as hell? And I think you should watch Who Framed Roger Rabbit. Let's just get the cartoons in the picture now.
Yeah, let's be serious here.
Right. Yeah.
And I already said Drive Away Dolls.
Yeah, that totally makes sense. Love it. It's the 80s classic.
Yeah. What do you rate this movie?
Raising Arizona. I'm gonna rate it 80. No, I'm gonna rate it. I'm gonna give it a 6.
I was. Yep.
Yeah.
6.
I enjoyed it. I would put it at about like the mid to low level of Coen Brothers canon, in my opinion.
Sure.
I love Fargo.
Yeah.
I love A No Country for Old Men. I'm a Big Lebowski fan. I know you are a little less partial to them as me. So I was thinking...
I'm just not sold.
I thought, as I was watching it, I thought to myself, Emily is actively enjoying this less than me right now. I could feel that through the friendship bond. I was like, yeah, Emily's not liking this as much as I am right now.
This tickled me more than The Big Lebowski.
Okay.
I didn't give a shit for Big Lebowski.
That's nice to hear, I guess. Less nice to hear because I do think I like The Big Lebowski better than I like this one. Yeah. But I think I just like to bowl. I like Steve Buscemi. I wish he was here.
R.I.P.
I wish he had been her husband, Frances McDormand's husband. If that had been Steve Buscemi, I think that would have blasted this through the roof for me.
Yeah.
But call Nathan Arizona's Unpainted Arizona for all of your furniture needs.
And if you can find a lower price than his name ain't, Nathan Arizona.
Yeah. So good. Thank you all for being here. Thank you for listening. It's 80s month. Please send us in your
recommendations.
Any
please.
movie from 1980 to 1989 is the limitations for this month. Let us know what you think. Drop us a DM. Drop us a line. Thank you for being here. Thank you for listening. And as always, goodbye and good night.